Welcome back, everyone. The Attorney General's office recently announced a settlement after an investigation of a scrap metal processor company. According to the Attorney General's report, the scrap metal company Joseph Friedman allegedly illegally polluted the Chicopee River and Springfield's storm drain system. We wanted to know how this would affect the environment. Western Mass News reporter Paris Dunford took those questions to a local professor.
Joseph Friedman Company Incorporated, the largest privately owned scrap metal processor in New England, recently popped up on the radar of Attorney General Maura Healey's office.
This came to my office as a result of receiving some reports, and as we always do, we did an investigation, and we actually learned that over years this company's own stormwater samples showed that for a long time it had been discharging this stormwater with illegal levels of pollutants.
According to the Attorney General's complaint, Friedman Company, located in Springfield, allegedly violated the Federal Clean Water Act when it illegally discharged polluted industrial stormwater from its facility through the Springfield Municipal Storm Drain System and into Poor Brook, a tributary of the Chicopee River. We reached out to the owner of Joseph Friedman Company. The company's attorney released a statement that reads in part, quote, "Improving our stormwater discharge is an essential part of the commitment, and as the consent decree itself notes, Friedman has already eliminated all stormwater discharges flowing down the ramp located on the southern edge of the facility. While we disagree with the assertions made by the Attorney General in her complaint, we recognize that, like everyone else in the metals industry that deals with dissolved metals measured in the parts per million, we must continue to do better. We have agreed to make significant improvements to our stormwater treatment systems, far beyond that which would be required under the applicable regulations." Now, Healey tells Western Mass News that Friedman has a legal obligation to control their stormwater.
This is a situation where a company was allowing the rain, the snow, the stormwater to run through their property, to pick up the dangerous heavy metals, and to have those just run right off, discharged into the river. And that is illegal.
The Attorney General's complaint shows the levels of pollutants included heavy metals that were being discharged into the river were significantly higher than what is allowed under the permit, including lead, aluminum, iron, copper, and zinc. A chart in the complaint lists how the presence of pollutants in Freedom stormwater discharges routinely exceeded EPA's benchmark limits. For example, in March 2019, the water discharge contained 23,684% more copper than the EPA's benchmark. Those discharges also exceeded the EPA benchmarks in September 2020 and in June 2021. We checked in with the Environmental Protection Agency to find out how the agency regulates limits on pollution. They sent Western Mass News a statement that reads in part, quote, "The Joseph Friedman Company's stormwater is regulated under a multi-sector general permit, which is a permit that outlines stormwater controls and limits on pollution that apply to many different facilities. This general permit requires each permittee to self-monitor, report quarterly data, and implement corrective actions if and when pollutants are detected above certain benchmark concentration values." The Attorney General's complaint states Friedman failed to consistently submit benchmark monitoring to the EPA. We asked the EPA what it means if the company does not report the data, and they say failure to report as required is ultimately a violation of the Clean Water Act, which could subject the facility to penalties or injunctive relief. We wanted to know what this type of pollution would do to the environment, so we took our questions to Dr. David Ruckow, a research professor at UMass Amherst in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, studying mostly water contaminants. We brought the chart presented in the complaint against Friedman to Dr. Ruckow.
All of these contaminants have, I know, health impacts to humans, impacts to aquatic life, adverse impacts.
These contaminants, however, are not affecting the drinking water supply, the AG's office confirmed, but the environment is heavily impacted by these pollutants, especially the fish that call the river home.
Copper is an essential nutrient at very low levels, but if you have it at higher levels, it becomes a problem and it becomes toxic. That has all kinds of ramifications to the health of the aquatic organism, the health of a human, too.
Dr. Ruckow says one of the pollutants, chemical oxygen demand, if ingested, could cause a large number of fish to die or not reproduce.
As it biodegrades, it consumes oxygen. And so it starves the water of the oxygen, starves the fish from oxygen, and they can die.
Now, the Attorney General did reach a settlement with the company. Within the consent decree, they have agreed to pay a fine of $115,000 to fund water quality and health equity projects. They've also committed to making system improvements to prevent any further damage. Reporting in Springfield, Paris Dunford for Western Mass News.